With Season 3 having an overarching story to it, there's more of a need to keep viewers up to date, especially in our case since we skipped over a couple of them. Hoshi was told the location of where the Xindi are working on the weapon. Well, part of it anyway. You can't build the whole planet kill yourself. You got to have it built in the right districts to support yourself in the next election. I mean, what's the point of wiping out your mortal enemy if in the end you're just going to hand power over to all the gray states? There's going to be a weapons test for the bad boy, but if it works, well, it's the home stretch then. They'll be able to use it in weeks, Degra promises. And that ends the teaser. Quick and to the point, the way that a teaser should be. They want to blow up the Earth. We know that is a bad thing. We're going to do something about it. Even if that something is throwing Jonathan Archer at it. I guess. After the titles, they're looking at scans of the colony, and everything suggests that it's defenseless. Not even any ships nearby, which is puzzling. Granted, they might be hiding in plain sight, but Reed thinks it's more than likely just not their target. Getting the info from a creepy telepathic stalker of Hoshi's is admittedly not the most reassuring vetting of your tactical data. Archer, it should note, is off to a promising start here, at least if you compare him with our recent look at the episode of the Xindi.
They could be coming from a weapons complex.
They could also be electrical storms, deposits of diamagnetic ore.
Or a glitch in our sensors, I know.
He actually sounds like someone that isn't going to crack under the pressure. I might almost be convinced this mission is in good hands. So Archer, Reed, and Major Hayes head in to check things out and find some kind of super science facility that's the source of their energy readings. They let themselves in, finding what looks suspiciously like Doc Brown's plutonium pellets. This could just confirm temporal Cold War, because after all, Doc Brown's got to be a major player in that. When 3 Xindi Arboreals show up, the name is revealed to be Chemosite. They're making a whole bunch of it for that dude, Degra, although Archer doesn't know who that is yet. He swipes some and has it beamed up for analysis, but whatever the readings say, it's pretty obvious that Star Labs here is making this for the superweapon, so they should blow this place up. Hayes agrees with Reed on that. Blowing things up is always a good plan. It's better than caffeine, and always the cure for erectile dysfunction. Now, Archer isn't opposed to blowing the place up on principle, but he would like to find the weapon itself, and this place could be a help with that. So they follow the head honcho back to his place and catch him having a nightcap, where they learn his name is Greylick Durr, and he has no idea what the hell Earth is and why it would prompt Archer to barge into his place.
Tell me about Chemosite.
It's a multiphasic isotope.
Multiphasic isotope? That is so not helpful. You pretty much just said the technical jargon version of stuff? Apparently it's got all kinds of uses, though. They don't just make it for top secret weapons programs. In fact, he seems a bit taken aback when Archer suggests that it's going to be used to exterminate humanity. I mean, that sounds bad. We're going to have to run that past marketing to see how the social media team is going to spin this. I'm betting you're going to probably need to see some kind of a video, maybe a montage of things like a camera pulling back in between rows of beds in a children's hospital while a gentle-voiced woman is talking about the many good things your products do that aren't about exterminating species, you know? Try to work in a way of maybe helping a 3-legged dog so that it's happy and healthy and has a doggy jetpack or something. It'll be rough, but they can ride this out at least through one news cycle. So anyway, how's the analysis going?
I managed to identify a subquantum imprint.
By subquantum, do you mean that it's smaller than quantum, or is subquantum like a 4-inch sandwich at Subway? If you Google subquantum, by the way, you'll get a whole lot of references to subquantum kinetics, along with subquantum kinetics debunked, because the idea of it is hogwash. You know what's funny about the two science concepts of quantum mechanics and relativity is that we tend to think of quantum at the atomic level or even the subatomic level and relativity at the really big level. But it's not like there's a buffer or anything where they cease to be because of size. Probably the best example of this is if you look at gold. It has the properties that you think of with gold because of relativity, actually. The speed that is necessary for the outermost electron that gold atoms have causes its mass to increase because of relativity, so that effectively it gets pulled down to that of a lower shell, making it hard to react chemically, and it causes the atom to thus be smaller and therefore more dense. And it also absorbs higher energy light, and thus reflects the colors that give it that lovely yellowish hue. I know that's all a bit of a tangent, but it's not a very full episode, so enjoy our little stroll through the periodic table. Back to Archer. With the help of Tech, he can say that the weapon that attacked the Earth used chemosite.
I've never seen your species before. I've never heard of a planet called Earth, and whether you believe me or not, I had nothing to do with killing millions of its inhabitants.
Could you imagine this guy's day as being the way you finally found out that aliens exist? You normally just do your job making spreadsheets or handling payroll, or you drive a forklift or something, but then all of a sudden out of nowhere, an angry alien shows up at your house because it seems their enemies come to Earth in disguise and buy whatever it is that you helped to create, and they use that to make their death rays work. Thanks to you, all our vil snips are failing to bud, no matter how many supplications we make to the Grand Cloud. You have betrayed our future for a few measly quatlus. Well, Tucker and Phlox are going to look over a rifle that they took off of a Xindi reptilian on a previous misadventure. They boarded the ship in the episode right before Impulse, actually. The reason that Phlox is going to join in is because there's this little worm-like thing inside.
Is it alive?
Yeah, just flop it right in your ungloved hand, Zoidberg. Raise your hand if any of you thought that there was a better than 50-50 chance he'd lick this thing. Meanwhile, Greylick confirms that this refined chemosite on the fragment came from their colony, but that they never considered it was being used as a weapon of mass destruction. I mean, it's got so many wonderful uses after all. It's a floor wax and a dessert topping. He finally explains who Degra is, that he's a Xindi primate, who are usually fair and honest, which is why they didn't suspect anything from him when he was asking for all this really refined chemosite. He also explains what the deal is with the busted-up planet that we saw in the episode The Xindi. See, there was this massive war that lasted 100 years among the 6 species of the Xindi. Well, the reptilians and the insectoids were apparently losing, and so they got the bright idea to set off massive explosions under the 8 major seismic fissures and wound up destroying their homeworld. Morons. The Xindi avians didn't escape the planet and thus are extinct, so that just leaves 5. Out of universe, it's because it was realized that they might not be able to pull off a 3rd CGI species, but they definitely were not going to be able to pull off a practical avian species without, not to put too fine a point on it, looking absurd. Better extinction than embarrassment, after all. So the Xindi Big Cheese arrive, including Degra, and naturally the reptilians are pissed off about something, because they're always pissed off about something. Probably not enough crickets in their terrarium or something. Greylick explains that they've been making chemosite for the past 6 months for this project, and this is the final shipment, so his absence is going to be noticed. He thinks that when he talks to them, he can try to learn something about the weapon. But Archer is skeptical. Greylick could wind up betraying them. But Greylick is outraged that his work could be responsible for 7 million deaths. He wants to get to the bottom of this almost as much as Archer does. But that's still not enough to convince Archer, so they're going to go with, let's pretend nobody's home when they come knocking at the door for the super important clients that have arrived. I mean, I will give Archer credit. Nobody says nobody's home, which I was half expecting them to try. Oh, speaking of bad ideas, Tucker has decided to test the Xindi rifle over to Paul's objections that they don't know anything about it. And so maybe if they're going to test it, they shouldn't do it on their ship. Well, we'll see how this goes. Meanwhile, a little petty bickering between Degra and the reptilian is interrupted by the news that Greylick is missing. Well, the reptilian is very annoyed at this news. And unfortunately, the 4 of them are actually in the woods right now, which is where the locals figure that he might have gone. So That's where they are when the probes go searching. They quickly get found, but Archer manages to take one down right away. Alas, though, Reed fails to blow his up. And in front of the Mako, no less. Oh, man, he is never going to live that one down. And just look at that expression there he's giving Archer. It's like, man, fuck this probe. Speaking of good aim, the Xindi rifle doesn't fire during the test. In fact, it starts to beep and build up energy, so soon Tucker has to run through the ship and beam it into space before they blow a hole in something.
Quick thinking, Commander.
Yeah, almost makes up for causing the very problem in the first place. She is so going to drop an I told you so on him. Meanwhile, hiding in a cave, Greylock wonders what Archer's next move is, and he says, well, you people weren't really responsible for what happened. I mean, after all, this stuff has got tons of different uses. If you're a screw manufacturer and someone uses your screws to build a bomb, it's not as if you expected that. I doubt building a bomb is on the top 10 list of common uses for screws. So, he's not going to do anything to hurt their settlement, including blowing up the facility. I mean, it's too late for it to matter anyway. Greylock says, well, I'm still willing to help, and while Reed and Hayes may both be skeptical, Archer is willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And sure enough, when the reptilian confronts him, Greylock plays it perfectly. He pulls out the I'm an annoyed professional too good for this job. I mean, everything that they throw at him, he just plays up the prima donna attitude thing that he is not going to tolerate them interrupting him right now. Even though all he's doing is playing for time, he handles it beautifully. It's like, yeah, I didn't come. I was off hunting. I was on my own time, damn it. You're early. And yeah, I shot your stupid probe because, again, I was hunting and it ruined everything, dick. Now, I'm going to finish checking this stuff over because I'm a genius doing my job, and you can either fuck off back onto whatever rock you were sunning on before you bothered me, or you could just take your shipment as is and take your chances about it being what you need and what it's not. Who cares? Not me, because some of us have lives, ass. Oh, and the best part of all, he's been sabotaging the chemosite the whole time. That's going to piss that reptilian off. He's going to probably molt twice in the same afternoon when he finds out. During all of this, Hoshi and T'Pol have rigged up a modified tube of chemosite that they can then detect and use to follow to the weapon. Archer slips on board the Xindi ship and puts it in place, and Greylock buys him time to make an escape from there. We'll be generous and assume that they didn't want to risk the transporter being detected if used on the Xindi ship itself. But what's surprising, though, is, as Greylock is buying time, Degra is honest with him, as Xindi primates are noted to be, remember. When he is asked what the shipment is for, Degra says it's to deal with an alien race intent on wiping the Xindi out, which naturally is worrisome to Greylock, considering what he's just done.
I may have just betrayed my people to a ruthless alien species.
Oh, that's awful. Who are they? The post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Phlox for having zero regard for safety on a ship that has a room specifically dedicated to ensuring no dangerous biological agents are brought on board. Idiot. Final score for the shipment is 6 out of 10. It's slightly above average for Enterprise. It had some good performances and ideas, but it was just spread too thin over the episode. Character actor John Cothran Jr. exceeds the limitations of his makeup to perform admirably throughout. It's a pity we'll never see Greylock again, but he does a very effective job of establishing, as he concludes the episode, that not all Xindi are the bad guys here. It was also nice to see a more reasonable Archer this week. There is, after all, a huge difference between a captain trying to hold his crew together in trying times and one trying to hold himself together in trying times.
probably should have found a nice empty asteroid to test it on.